This is the female lead of the drama, Qin Shi, who is a lawyer. Qin Shi's mentor altered her documents to show her marital status as married instead of unmarried to help her secure a job in a major company because the company only hired lawyers who were married. Her mentor registered the name of Yang Hua, the male lead of this drama, as her husband. However, poor Yang Hua doesn't even know that he has been married. At the start of the drama, we see the male lead, Yang Hua, where his mother shows him a girl's photo and asks, "Why did you reject her?" Yang Hua replies, "She was 30 minutes late on our first date." His mother says, "She's a girl, so what's the big deal if she was a little late?" Yang Hua responds, "If she can waste time on the first date, she'll do the same her whole life. And she didn't even apologize for being late." Then his mother shows him more photos of girls and asks for the reasons he rejected them. Yang Hua keeps making excuses and finally says, "Yes, there was one girl I found okay, but she didn't like me. What can I do about that?" His mother says, "I have only one dream, to see your success and your family. But you have neither a family nor success in your career." Then she gives him a photo of a girl who is a lawyer. Yang Hua goes to meet her, and the female lead, Qin Shi, is also attending her boss, Miss Yu, his anniversary party at the same location. Qin Shi sees Yang Hua there and announces in front of everyone, "This is my husband," and then kisses him. Yang Hua has no idea about any of this, so he takes her aside and asks, "Why did you do all this?" Qin Shi replies, "I had to lie to get this job." Yang Hua says, "You have 3 days to tell everyone the truth," and leaves. When he gets home, the door is locked. His mother has thrown him out of the house. Then he receives a message from his father, "I've left some money outside for you. Use it until your mother calms down." On the other side, we see Yang Hua feeling very uncomfortable in a hotel. He removes the hotel bed sheets and pillows, but still can't fall asleep. In the morning, Qin Shi is waiting for Miss Yu He to go jogging. Miss Yu He arrives, and Qin Shi gets into her car. Miss Yu He says, "Your husband is quite young and handsome." While jogging, Qin Shi remembers that she has to reveal the truth about her relationship with Yang Hua within 3 days. She seizes the moment and says to Miss Yu, "I need to talk to you about something." Miss Yu, he replies, "I know you want to leave to spend time with your husband, but you won't get any leave until you convince Miss Lan to become our client." Meanwhile, we see Yang Hua at the gym with his friend. His friend says, "Why did you argue with your mom? She only wants you to get married." Yang Hua replies, "Marriage is just an excuse. She wants me to find a job." He continues, "I like my online job," and adds, "Don't talk to me about marriage. These days there are more divorces than marriages. What's the point of getting married?" On the other side, we see Wu Fei, a new employee at Miss Yu He's company. Miss Li says to Wu Fei, "Work on this case study." Wu Fei responds, "Sorry, but please assign this task to someone else because I'm Miss Qin Shi's legal assistant and will only complete the tasks assigned by her." Miss Li gets angry and leaves upon hearing this. In the next scene, Wu Fei gives Qin Shi details about Miss Lan and tells her she will attend a charity dinner. Qin Shi needs entry to the dinner, but Wu Fei says only family members or married couples are allowed entry. Qin Shi decides she will attend the dinner with Yang Hua. Meanwhile, Yang Hua makes a post saying, "I need a fake girlfriend." Qin Shi sees this post as well. Yang Hua is waiting for his fake girlfriend at a restaurant. Qin Shi arrives there and says to him, "I am ready to be your contract girlfriend." But Yang Hua refuses. Qin Shi gets into his car and says, "Just give me one chance to explain myself." However, Yang Hua says, "You have only 26 hours left to end this relationship." Qin Shi gets angry, starts to leave, but then stops, apologizes, and says, "I know you're hurt because of me, but I didn't have any other option to save my career. I chose you after seeing your photo, but now I feel I chose the wrong person." Saying this, Qin Shi leaves. Yang Hua's friend tells him, "I don't think Qin Shi is fake. You should apologize to her." Hearing Qin Shi's name, Yang Hua angrily gets out of the car. But now Yang Hua has no choice but to accept Qin Shi's contract because he doesn't even have money to pay his rent. Yang Hua calls Qin Shi, apologizes, and asks to meet her again. In the next scene, Qin Shi comes to meet him. Qin Shi says, "You were calling me a dirty person. How did you change your mind so quickly?" Yang Hua replies, "I think you lied to save your career, and there's nothing wrong with that. But now give me a chance to understand you better." Qin Shi says, "You will have to be my contract husband for 6 months. You'll need to attend some events with me and behave like a couple. The rest of the time, you can do whatever you want." Qin Shi gives him the agreement, and Yang Hua signs it. After signing the agreement, Qin Shi says, "You'll have to come with me to a charity dinner this evening. But before that, we'll visit your house and meet your mother. I'll only stay there for 2 hours." Yang Hua says, "All right." He takes Qin Shi to his parents and tells them, "This is my girlfriend and we'll get married in a year." I will include this name in my property, and after marriage, we will not live here with you. His mother realizes this is all an act. She says, all right, why wait for a year? Get married in 3 months. Yang Hua becomes tense because his plan isn't working. Then Qin Shi says, let's get married today itself, and they both leave. His mother is shocked, thinking they might actually get married. While leaving, Qin Shi says to Yang Hua, think of yourself as an international businessman, and we have a 2.5-year-old child undergoing treatment abroad. Yang Hua responds, you said we've been married for 2 years, so where did this 2.5-year-old child come from? To this, Qin Shi replies, it doesn't matter to me whether the child is from before or after the marriage. In the next scene, the two go to a hotel and start getting ready for the charity dinner in their room. Qin Shi comes out and says to him, close the zip of my dress. Yang Hua feels very nervous hearing this, but reluctantly moves to close the zip. Just as he's about to do it, he slips, but then he gets up and closes the zip. Qin Shi says to him, what kind of clothes are you wearing? Don't you have anything else to wear? She then takes him to buy clothes. Yang Hua changes into the new clothes and comes out, but he is worried about the price because they were very expensive. In the next scene, we see Ms. Lan introducing Qin Shi to Jin Hui, who is Wu Fei's boyfriend and also Qin Shi's ex-boyfriend. However, Qin Shi ignores him and walks away. In the following scene, Qin Shi comes out of her room and her ex-boyfriend pulls her into a room. Qin Shi says to him, let me go, or I'll scream for help. He steps back and asks, what's your intention behind attending this charity dinner? Qin Shi replies, what does that have to do with you? Mind your own business. Meanwhile, we see Yang Hua looking for Qin Shi. While searching for her, he enters the same room, takes Qin Shi, and leaves. Outside, Yang Hua asks her, are you all right? Qin Shi replies, if I say I'm not all right, will you fight with him? Yang Hua says, fighting won't solve anything. I'll just call the police. In the next scene, we see Qin Shi asking Ms. Lan, please give me the opportunity to handle your niece's case. But Ms. Lan replies, if my niece Dan Ping chose Miss Li Dai for this case, she must have done so for a reason. Don't think too much about it, you'll get plenty of other opportunities. Saying this, she leaves. After Ms. Lan leaves, Qin Shi's ex-boyfriend comes and says, what happened to you was so unfortunate. Just then, Yang Hua arrives with a dish for Qin Shi. However, Qin Shi is allergic to that dish, which her ex-boyfriend knows, but Yang Hua does not. To spite her ex-boyfriend, Qin Shi eats the dish and then goes back to her room with Yang Hua. Qin Shi develops an allergic reaction because of the dish. Yang Hua says to her, why did you eat the dish you're allergic to just to spite your ex-boyfriend? By the way, tell me, why did you break up with him? Qin Shi says, why do you want to know so much about me? Yang Hua replies, don't misunderstand me. Since I have to play the role of your husband, I thought I should know this. But if you don't want to tell me, it's okay. After this, Qin Shi says, my allergy medicine is in the car. Could you bring it for me? After he leaves, a waiter comes, gives some medicine to someone, and leaves. When Yang Hua takes out Qin Shi's medicine, he notices that it has expired. He asks a guard, is there a pharmacy nearby? The guard gives him directions to the pharmacy, and Yang Hua goes to buy new medicine for Qin Shi. When he returns, he sees that Qin Shi has already fallen asleep, and the same medicine is there on the table. After that, Yang Hua also tries to sleep, but because of Qin Shi's snoring, he can't sleep, so he goes to sleep in the car. The next morning, Qin Shi gets ready to leave for home and sees Yang Hua still sleeping in the car. She asks him, why did you come to sleep in the car? Yang Hua replies, I thought you might get disturbed because of me. Qin Shi says, do you snore? Don't worry. Even if there's an earthquake after I fall asleep, I won't wake up. Poor Yang Hua listens quietly and doesn't say anything. After this, Qin Shi drives the car very fast, scaring Yang Hua, who starts yelling. Then Qin Shi drops him off outside the hotel and drives away. After she leaves, Yang Hua realizes that his belongings are still in the car. Meanwhile, Yang Hua gets a message from his dad. Why didn't you answer your mom's call? Did you block her number? Yang Hua suddenly remembers, since I said yes to the marriage, I can go back home now? At home, he is having breakfast with his parents and says, I haven't had a proper meal in 2 days. His mom says, I shouldn't have done that to you. Anyway, I've talked to your dad about your girlfriend, and we're fully prepared for your wedding. Hearing this, Yang Hua becomes very worried. In the next scene, we see Qin Shi returning home. She receives a call from Yang Hua, who says, why haven't you sent my belongings yet? Qin Shi gets up and injures her foot. She replies, I have some work right now. Come and collect your belongings yourself. I'll send you my home address. In the next scene, we see Qin Shi's doorbell ringing. She stumbles to open the door and finds Yang Hua outside, who says, it's been a while. Give me my belongings. I'm leaving now. He notices her injury and asks, what happened to your foot? Qin Shi says, I just injured it a moment ago. Yang Hua comes inside, and Qinsha asks, can you help me with some work? When Yang Hua doesn't respond, she asks, do you want something in return? Yang Hua says, no, but Qinsha insists, you look like you want to say something. Yang Hua responds, yes, I do want something in return, but first I'll help you, and then we can talk about it. They continue working for a long time. The next morning, we see Yang Hua, who stayed the night at Qinsha's house. He starts taking pictures with Qinsha and appears to be deep in thought. Qinsha catches him taking pictures and grabs his phone to check. Yang Hua says, I was just taking a picture of us to show my mom. Qinsha says, I have a better idea. She gets ready, takes Yang Hua's phone, and records a video of them behaving like a cute couple. She then tells Yang Hua, send this video to your mom. I think it'll be enough. Yang Hua says, it's not enough. My mom wants us to live together. Qinsha replies, I have no problem with that. You can stay here. Anyway, your mom won't believe it until she sees us together. Yang Hua asks, won't you feel uncomfortable living with me? Qinsha takes him to a study room and says, you'll stay here. Yang Hua offers to pay rent, but Qinsha refuses to take it. In the next scene, we see Yang Hua's mom watching the video Qinsha had made. She starts shouting at Yang Hua's dad, saying, Yang Hua has really gone to live with that girl. Hearing this, his dad replies, you were the one who set this condition, so what's your problem now? We see Yang Hua cleaning Qinsha's house after she leaves. There, he finds one of Qinsha's hot dresses. Seeing it, he becomes nervous and quickly puts it back. On the other hand, we see Qinshi's colleague, Li Dai. Li Dai's mother sends her a photo of a boy for a date and also informs her his name is Yang Hua. Li Dai suddenly remembers Qinshi's husband's name is also Yang Hua, and the details her mom sent about Yang Hua match the details of Qinshi's husband. In the next scene, we see Yang Hua buying some items and heading home. While on the way, he calls his mom and asks her, why are you still arranging blind dates for me through a matchmaker? I already have a girlfriend now. His mom starts making excuses, saying, I haven't told them yet that you're getting married, so they think you're still single. And we've already paid them in advance, so just meet the girl once, and don't tell Qinsha about this. Then, in the lift, he meets Ren Mei, who is Qinshi's sister-in-law. Seeing him, Ren Mei messages Qinshi saying, you have such a handsome neighbor. Why didn't you ever tell me? She responds, no, I don't have any handsome neighbor. Suddenly, it occurs to her, could she be talking about Yang Hua? She immediately calls Ren Mei and says, I have a meeting today, so I'll be late coming home, and we won't be able to have dinner together. So, don't come to my house. But Ren Mei replies, I've already come to your house. And even if you don't come, it's fine because there's someone else here with whom I can have dinner. Saying this, she hangs up the call. Qinsha then tries to call Yang Hua, but Ren Mei picks up Yang Hua's phone and tells Qinsha, focus on your work. We can pass the time here just fine. Hearing this, Qinsha immediately leaves for home. In the next scene, we see Li Dai, who is thinking, what if the boy from the blind date and Qinsha's husband are the same person? To confirm, she tries to look at the photo of Qinsha's husband kept on her desk, but Wu Fei catches her snooping around in Qinsha's office. Li Dai asks her, where is Qinsha's? Wu Fei replies, she had an emergency so she left for her house. In the next scene, Qinsha reaches home. Ren Mei invites her to join them for dinner, but Qinsha ignores her and drags Yang Hua to her room, asking him, what did you tell her? Yang Hua replies, don't worry, I didn't tell her that I'm your husband. I told her that I'm your boyfriend. Then Qinsha asks, do you even know who she is? Yang Hua replies, yes, she told me she's your schoolmate. After this, they both go outside, and Qinsha tells Yang Hua, she's not only my schoolmate but also my sister-in-law. And then the three of them sit together and have drinks. Afterward, Ren Mei asks Yang Hua to add her on WeChat, but Yang Hua refuses and says, I don't use social media much. Ren Mei asks, when are you two getting married? Yang Hua starts sharing his opinion, I think people shouldn't get married. At this point, Qinsha stops him from speaking further, pulls him outside and says, if you stay here a little longer, you'll spill everything. So it's better if you leave until Ren Mei is inside. She then sends him out and goes back inside herself. In the next scene, we see Junhui sleeping in his office. Just then, he gets a call from Wu Fei. Wu Fei says, I know you're still at the office. Come on, get up and go home now. Junhui starts heading home. Wu Fei then says, today, Qinsha asked me something about you. Junhui asks, did you tell her about our relationship? Wu Fei replies, no, I only told her that you're a lawyer and work at Jime Company. I haven't even told anyone at the company that I'm the owner's daughter, otherwise people would start spreading rumors about me. After this, the call ends, and Junhui stops outside Qinsha's house. At the same time, Yang Hua is returning home with ice cream. Junhui sees him and asks, do you live here too? Yang Hua replies, yes. Are you here to meet Qin Shi? He says, no, I'm not here to meet her. I used to live in this area before, so I was just asking. Yang Hua starts going inside, and just then Ren Mei, who was heavily drunk, comes outside. Yang Hua goes inside and sees that the house is completely messy. He starts cleaning it up. Just then, Qin Shi comes out of the bathroom after taking a shower. Seeing her like that, Yang Hua feels awkward and immediately looks away. He then says, go put on some clothes. Afterward, Qin Shi goes to her room, and Yang Hua resumes cleaning the house. When she comes out ready and starts heading to the office, Yang Hua stops her and says, who goes to the office at 10 p.m.? Then he grabs her, takes her to her room, and puts her to bed before stepping out again. In the next scene, we see Yang Hua in the shower when he hears Qin Shi's voice from outside. He comes out and sees that Qin Shi is heading to the office again. He tries to stop her, but Qin Shi says, my work is very important to me. Yang Hua goes up to her, grabs her hand, and pulls her back. The two of them look at each other for a long time. After a while, Yang Hua picks her up and takes her back to her room. The next morning, Qin Shi wakes up and comes out of her room to see that Yang Hua was sleeping on the floor outside her door to prevent her from leaving. But Qin Shi doesn't understand why he was sleeping on the floor. In the next scene, we see Yang Hua and Qin Shi sitting together, drinking coffee. Qin Shi says, when I drink, I tend to wake up and try to go to the office at night, but don't take it so seriously. I only walk a few steps and then end up sleeping on the floor. Then she says, first of all, we need to change the door password. Yang Hua replies, I already changed the password. In the next scene, Li Dai goes to Qin Shi's room to look at her husband's photo to confirm whether the guy from her blind date is the same as Qin Shi's husband. Just then, Qin Shi comes in and asks, what are you doing in my office? Li Dai, making an excuse, says, I came here to thank you. Saying this, she drops Qin Shi's photo and, under the pretense of picking it up, looks at it. But in that photo, Yang Hua wasn't with Qin Shi. Li Dai puts the photo back and leaves. In the next scene, we see Yang Hua returning to his house. His father is happy to see him and asks, have you come back to stay? Yang Hua doesn't respond and asks his father to unlock his room. His father unlocks it, and Yang Hua starts packing his things. His father tries to stop him from leaving. Yang Hua then says, Mom also wants me to live with Qin Shi before the wedding, doesn't she? His father replies, I don't have a problem, but your mother does. She's only pretending to agree to this marriage. Meanwhile, we see Yang Hua's mother, who finally discovers which company Qin Shi works at. She goes to the company. A staff member says, you cannot meet her without an appointment. Yang Hua's mother says, I am her relative. I just came here to see her. I won't disturb her work. Just tell her that I'm Yang Hua's mother. As soon as Li Dai hears Yang Hua's name, she immediately approaches his mother and says, until Qin Shi arrives, I can keep you company. Yang Hua's mother asks, can you tell me what kind of person Qin Shi is? Li Dai responds, she's the best lawyer here. But why are you asking me all this? You must already know about her. Yang Hua's mother says, yes, I know her well, but I wanted to know about her work. Just then, Qin Shi finds out that Yang Hua's mother has come to the office, so she rushes to the company. After Qin Shi arrives, Li Dai gets up and leaves. Qin Shi takes Yang Hua's mother to a room where no one can overhear them. Yang Hua's mother says, why did you lie here that Yang Hua is your husband? I know my son very well. He's not even interested in dating anyone. Just then, Yang Hua arrives there and says to Qin Shi, the situation has gotten out of hand now, so we should end our partnership here. His mother asks, what partnership are you talking about? And what is your relationship with Qin Shi? Is she blackmailing you? Qin Shi says, all right, I'll tell you the complete truth. I want to marry your son because neither of us loves each other, nor do we want to date anyone else. Hearing this, Yang Hua's mother says to him, why do you want to marry without love? I won't let you ruin your future. Yang Hua says, Qin Shi is the right one for me. But his mother says, if you marry this girl, a divorce is certain, and no one in our family has ever gotten divorced. At this, Qin Shi says, earlier, you forced matchmakers to arrange blind dates for him, and now that he's getting married, you're not letting him do that either. You're not worried about your son, but about what people will say about him. Hearing this, Yang Hua's mother becomes a little emotional and then says to Yang Hua, come back home with me. From now on, I won't ever force you to get married, nor will I arrange blind dates for you. Saying this, she starts to take Yang Hua away. Then Qin Shi says to her, from now on, don't come to my office without informing me, and don't talk to my colleagues about me. She leaves with Yang Hua. Outside, Yang Hua says, I have some work to do right now. Qin Shi is in a lift, and she isn't wearing her shoes. As soon as she steps out, she sees Yang Hua standing there. Without saying anything, he picks her up in his arms and starts carrying her. But they go inside the office and close the door. A crowd gathers outside the office to watch them, but then Li Dai comes and tells everyone to go back to their work. The crowd disperses, and Lee Dai secretly tries to listen to their conversation but cannot hear anything. On the other hand, we see Yang Hua taking care of Qin Shi's feet, and Qin Shi thinks, I haven't felt this good in a long time. Then Qin Shi puts on her shoes, and Yang Hua says, today, I will go and talk to my mother. In the next scene, we see Yang Hua and his father sitting together having a drink. His father says, today, I feel very proud of you. Even though you're jobless, at least you've understood your responsibilities. And I think this change in you is because of Qin Shi, so you can continue dating her. I won't stop you. Then Yang Hua returns home, but he behaves rather oddly. Qin Shi greets him with a hi, but Yang Hua goes straight to his room without looking at her. Afterward, Qin Shi goes to him and asks, have you been drinking? Yang Hua says, yes, just a little. Then Qin Shi says, I want to tell you something, but are you in a state to listen right now? Yang Hua says, yes. After that, the two sit together, and Qin Shi asks him, what's your next step going to be? Just then, Yang Hua rests his head on the table and falls asleep. Qin Shi says, tomorrow Miss Yihui has arranged a couple's party and you'll have to come with me. Then she looks at Yang Hua, grabs his hair and asks, are you listening to me or not? Yang Hua, still half asleep, says, yes, I'm listening. You want to take me out for dinner, but I have a question for you too. Then he asks her, why did you ask me to hide your company's secret? Qin Shi is about to answer him when he stands up, starts unbuttoning his shirt and says, I'm going to take a shower now, we'll talk about this later. Saying this, he goes off to take a shower. In the next scene, Yang Hua stands in front of Qin Shi, takes her hand and leads her to her room. He then starts saying, when I first met you, I thought you were the definition of beauty. Then he recites a romantic poem for her and praises her extensively. Afterward, he says, good night, dear, and leaves. But after he leaves, Qin Shi starts laughing a lot while recalling his words. The next morning, when Yang Hua wakes up and comes outside, Qin Shi gives him a drink to cure his hangover and asks, how are you feeling now? Yang Hua says, I'm still feeling quite hungover. Qin Shi says, get ready quickly. We are leaving in half an hour. Yang Hua asks, where are you talking about going? Qin Shi starts explaining, I told you, didn't I? Today we are going to Miss Yihui's house and you already said yes to coming along. Yang Hua says, I'm feeling very weak right now. I won't be able to go to the party with you. Saying this, he starts heading back to his room. In the next scene, Yang Hua is sitting in the car, all ready for the party, but he has no desire to go. At that moment, Qin Shi comes and fastens his seatbelt and also puts a wedding ring on his finger. Both of them arrive at Miss Yihui's house. Yang Hua gives Miss Yihui a bottle of wine as a gift. After this, they meet Miss Yihui's husband, Mr. Jin. Mr. Jin praises Yang Hua a lot, but poor Yang Hua was feeling very uneasy. He just listened to their conversations without saying a word. At that moment, Mr. Jin asks Qin Shi, is he feeling unwell? Qin Shi starts explaining, yes, he drank too much last night. Then Mr. Jin asks Miss Yihui to get him some black tea to help with the hangover. All the staff members sit down to eat. Everyone starts drinking wine. Yang Hua also prepares to drink wine, even though his previous hangover hadn't subsided yet. But Qin Shi stops him from drinking wine and tells him to have juice instead. At that moment, Mr. Jin says to everyone, we are going to select one lawyer among you for the criminal department, and whoever gets selected will become our company's lifetime partner. After this, everyone starts eating. At that moment, Yang Hua receives a call and goes aside to attend it. It was a call from Lee Dai. She starts asking him, why did you hide your marriage from your mother? And why do you go on blind dates even after being married? Yang Hua sees Lee Dai, who was hiding nearby and talking. Seeing her, Yang Hua recalls that his mother had given him this same girl's photo for a blind date. Lee Dai says, it seems like you've recognized me, so come here and talk to me now. Then Yang Hua goes to meet her, and Lee Dai asks, why were you about to go on a blind date with me despite being married? And why didn't you tell your mother that you're already married? Lee Dai was also recording all this, but Yang Hua doesn't respond to her. Just as Yang Hua is about to say something, Qin Shi and Miss Yihui also arrive there. Then Lee Dai says to Miss Yihui, you might remember the anniversary party night when Yang Hua suddenly showed up to surprise Qin Shi. But the truth is, he was there with me on a blind date. Miss Yihui is shocked to hear this and asks Qin Shi, is this true? Qin Shi thinks for a moment and then says to Yang Hua, whether you came that day willingly or because your mother sent you. Qin Shi signals to him with her eyes to understand. Then Yang Hua says, my mother sent me. After this, Qin Shi says, your mother always had problems with me, but I never thought she would still force you to go on blind dates. After that, they sit there and talk. Qin Shi pretends to cry while hugging him. Seeing this, Miss Yihui becomes convinced that they are married and that their married life is full of problems. In the next scene, Qin Shi is at home watching news about the fraud in the Yulan group. At that moment, Yang Hua arrives and says, "This must have brought a lot of cases to your company." Qin Shi explains, "Mr. Jin has refused to take any cases related to the Yulan group." She adds, "We managed the situation today, but until they select me as the lawyer for the criminal department, you will have to act like the perfect husband, and for that we'll also need a child." Hearing this, Yang Hua says, "I can't help you with that." At that moment, Qin Shi says, "I already told you that we already have a child who is undergoing treatment abroad. We'll tell Miss Yihui that the child is with your sister and that she is taking care of him." To this, Yang Hua says, "I don't even have a sister." Then Qin Shi says, "Don't worry, I've already made up the whole story." Hearing this, Yang Hua says, "You should have been a novelist instead of a lawyer because you're so good at making up stories." After this, Yang Hua tells her, "My mother is coming here today." Qin Shi asks him, "Why is she coming here? She told you that she wouldn't force you for anything, and if she comes here, she'll find out that we are not in a relationship." Then she asks Yang Hua, "Does your mother have an ego?" To this, Yang Hua replies, "Yes, she does, just like you." Qin Shi says, "That's a good thing. I just got an idea from this, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. I want to keep you in suspense." Saying this, she sends him off to do the dishes. In the next scene, Yang Hua's mother arrives at their house. When she asks Yang Hua, "Where is Qin Shi?" Yang Hua says, "She is still at the office and has to work overtime today." To this, his mother says, "Don't make excuses in front of me. I know she's avoiding me." Meanwhile, we see Qin Shi sneaking off to her sister-in-law's house. Yang Hua is showing his mother the entire house, which she finds quite nice. After this, she enters Qin Shi's bedroom and asks Yang Hua, "Do you also sleep here with her?" To this, Yang Hua, a little nervous, says, "Our schedules are different. Sometimes she comes home very late, and to avoid disturbing my sleep, we sleep in separate rooms." Saying this, he goes off to make tea for her. After he leaves, his mother starts checking Qin Shi's room and finds a packet of protection there. When she comes out, she angrily says to Yang Hua, "Why did you lie to me?" Yang Hua asks, "What lie?" To this, his mother says, "I'm warning you. If Qin Shi gets pregnant before marriage, I won't spare you." Saying this, she leaves to return to her house. But Yang Hua doesn't understand why she suddenly became so upset. In the next scene, Miss Lan and Dan Peng visit Yihui's company with a contract. Mr. Jin asks them, "Why do you want to hire our lawyers for your case?" Miss Lan says, "We spoke to other companies too, but they refused to take our case. In fact, they want to fight against us." Mr. Jin explains, "This case is quite complicated. Your husband committed fraud and you had no knowledge of it. If you want to avoid these problems, you should divorce your husband." Hearing about the divorce, Miss Lan becomes very upset because she believed her husband didn't commit fraud. Therefore, she didn't want to divorce him either. At that moment, Dan Peng calms her down. Then Mr. Jin says to Dan Peng, "Think about which lawyer you want to hire from us for this divorce case and let us know." After this, Miss Lan and Dan Peng leave. At that moment, Miss Yi tells Qin Shi, "Do not get involved in this case because it is very complicated. You should focus only on your promotion right now. If you take this case, it could negatively affect your promotion." In the next scene, Qin Shi and Yang Hua are at a grocery store. Qin Shi is picking out meat for herself, but Yang Hua puts it back and says, "There is already plenty of meat at home." Then Qin Shi tries to take hot pot, but Yang Hua stops her again. Qin Shi gets irritated by this and goes to get a new cart for herself. When she returns, she asks Yang Hua, "If you were in my place, would you take this case?" Yang Hua says, "No, because Mr. Jin has already mentioned that it is very complicated." Qin Shi replies, "I want to take this case." On the other hand, we see Wu Fei and Junhui discussing the same case because Junhui was going to fight against Miss Lan. After that, the two couples suddenly run into each other and sit down to talk. Wu Fei starts apologizing to Qin Shi because she had hidden from her that her fiancé, Junhui, also works for their competitor, Jimei Company. She also reveals to Qin Shi, "I am the daughter of Jimei Company's owner, but please don't tell anyone about this." Afterward, Qin Shi asks them, "When are you two getting married?" Wu Fei says, "We're getting married at the end of this year, and we will invite you to the wedding." Then Qin Shi begins to leave. At that moment, Junhui stops her and says, "You already knew about my relationship with Wu Fei, so you sent Wu Fei to me to get details about my case." Wu Fei tells him to remain quiet. Qin Shi responds to Junhui, "She is not just your fiancé, she is also my assistant. That's why I gave her this task. But if this task is creating problems in your relationship, fine. I won't ask Wu Fei to be involved in this case." Saying this, she leaves. After she leaves, Wu Fei gets angry at Junhui. In the next scene, we see Wu Fei and Junhui having dinner at home. Junhui starts asking more questions about Qin Shi, and in the course of the conversation, Wu Fei inadvertently reveals Qin Shi is handling Miss Lan's divorce case. Wu Fei then realizes that she shouldn't have said this. Meanwhile, we see Junhui texting an employee, "We need to act quickly. I just found out that Miss Lan and Mr. Peng are getting a divorce." In the next scene, Qin Shi and Yang Hua are in an elevator. Qin Shi, feeling very sleepy, rests her head on Yang Hua's shoulder and falls asleep. Yang Hua then takes Qin Shi to her room and lays her down to sleep. However, Qin Shi holds onto his jacket so tightly that he has to remove it to free himself. As she sleeps, Qin Shi murmurs Yang Hua's name. Seeing this, Yang Hua quietly leaves. The next morning, Yang Hua prepares breakfast for her, and Qin Shi says, "You helped me yesterday. Today, I'll treat you to hot pot for this." In the next scene, Wu Fei tells Qin Shi, "I know why you removed me from this case, but I promise I won't tell Junhui anything about it. You know how capable I am. I can definitely help you with this case." But Qin Shi refuses. Wu Fei leaves feeling dejected. After Wu Fei leaves, Qin Shi begins to wonder, did I do this out of jealousy? What a monster I am. In the next scene, Qin Shi is in a meeting discussing Miss Lan's divorce case. Just then, Qin Shi receives a call from Yang Hua and steps outside to talk to him. She tells Yang Hua, "I'll be working overtime today, so I won't be able to treat you to dinner." Yang Hua responds, "No problem." Just then, Qin Shi gets another call and tells Yang Hua to hang up as she takes the second call, which turns out to be from Junhui. Junhui says, "I know you're handling Miss Lan's divorce case. If it's okay with you, I'll wait for you outside the office. Please come." Qin Shi agrees. Meanwhile, Li Dai announces, "I want to treat everyone from my side." But Qin Shi, wanting to have dinner with Yang Hua, declines and leaves. In the next scene, we see Wu Fei waiting for Junhui at home. As she picks up one of Junhui's books, a photo falls out. When she looks at the photo, she sees Junhui and Qin Shi standing together. She becomes slightly nervous upon seeing it, but puts it back where it was. Meanwhile, Junhui is shown waiting for Qin Shi. As Qin Shi is on her way to meet Junhui, a man enters the same elevator. The man seems suspicious to Qin Shi, and she starts to call the police, but the man exits the elevator. When Qin Shi steps outside, the man asks her, "Are you Miss Qin Shi?" Qin Shi ignores him and walks away. At that moment, more people arrive and say to her, "We need to discuss something regarding the Yulan group case." Qin Shi replies, "I am not Miss Qin Shi," and tries to walk away. Just then, one of the men grabs her arm, and Qin Shi fights back and escapes. At that moment, Junhui arrives. The man tells Junhui, "We have nothing to do with you. Step aside." Meanwhile, a few other men catch up to Qin Shi, and a fight breaks out. Qin Shi fights them off and tries to run but falls while fleeing. The men are about to catch her when Yang Hua shows up. He has an electric gun, which he uses to shock one of the men. He then takes Qin Shi and leaves the scene. Qin Shi says Junhui is still there, and he won't be able to handle so many people alone. Yang Hua goes to help Junhui. Yang Hua tries to shock another man with his electric gun, but this time the gun doesn't work. The man starts attacking Yang Hua, but Junhui intervenes and saves him. After this, the police arrive and arrest the men. Junhui says, "We all need to go to the police station to give statements, so let's go in my car." Yang Hua replies, "We have our own car. We'll go in that." Junhui says, "I need to talk to Qin Shi." Yang Hua says, "Fine, come with us in our car, and you can talk to her there." Qin Shi calms both of them down, and they all head to the police station in Junhui's car. Junhui tells Qin Shi, "If you feel uncomfortable in this car, there's still time for you to take your own car." Yang Hua responds, "You're the one who insisted we come with you." The two are about to start arguing again when Qin Shi calms them down. In the next scene, Qin Shi and Yang Hua are having a meal together. Qin Shi says, "You did a great job acting like the perfect husband today." Usually, husbands act this way when meeting their wife's ex-boyfriend, but Qin Shi didn't know that Yang Hua was genuinely feeling jealous. In the next scene, Qin Shi tries to sleep in her room but keeps feeling Yang Hua's presence everywhere. She struggles to fall asleep as Yang Hua keeps appearing in her thoughts, which frustrates her. The next morning, Miss Yihui calls Qin Shi and Li Dai to her office and asks them to close Miss Lan's case. Later, Yang Hua receives a call from Qin Shi. She asks, "If you want to help someone but it doesn't benefit you in any way, would you still help them?" Yang Hua replies, "I can't answer that for you. I think you already know the answer, but you're just seeking my approval." Qin Shi thanks him and ends the call. In the next scene, Qin Shi visits Miss Lan's house. When Den Peng sees her, she angrily says, "Your company refused to take our case." Qin Shi responds, "Even though my company has given up on this case, I haven't. I want to fight Miss Lan's case under my own name, and I won't charge any fees for it." When she goes inside, Miss Li Dai is already sitting there. Denpeng then asks both of them, "Do you have any special plan that can help us?" Qinshi says, "Yes." Saying this, she calls Yang Hua and asks, "Tell me the plan." Yang Hua shares a plan with them. Qinshi thanks him and ends the call. Miss Lan also thanks Qinshi for her help. In the next scene, Qinshi and Li Dai are seen leaving. Li Dai says, "Now we have 3 secrets that only the 2 of us know." She starts to leave, saying this. Qinshi says, "Come on, let's have lunch together. I want to treat you today." After this, the 2 are having lunch at a restaurant. Qinshi asks her, "What were the 3 common secrets you were talking about earlier?" Li Dai plays a recording for her in which Yang Hua's mother is heard saying, "My son isn't married yet. Qinshi is just his girlfriend, and they haven't gotten married yet." Then Li Dai says, "I found out that you pretended to be married just to get a quick promotion." Qinshi says, "Tell me, what do you want?" To this, Li Dai says, "I don't like cheaters and frauds at all. I just want you to remove your name from the promotion list." Qinshi says, "Even if I remove my name, they still won't select you for the position." Li Dai says, "That's okay, but at least you'll stay at the same level as me." Saying this, she leaves. In the next scene, we see Qinshi returning home and playing that recording for Yang Hua. Yang Hua asks, "What are you going to do now?" Qinshi says, "Now I have no choice but to remove my name from the promotion list. I've done so much to get here, even lied about being married. But you were right. No destination can be achieved the wrong way. That's why I've decided to leave this company and work at another company." Yang Hua says, "If you had gotten the promotion, would you have told everyone that you weren't married and that you just pretended to be?" To this, Qinshi says, "Yes, I would have told them and also explained why I had to do so." Yang Hua says, "I have a solution that will still get you the promotion." Qinshi asks, "What's the solution?" Yang Hua says, "Let's actually get married." Qinshi is shocked. In the next scene, Yang Hua comes home and tells his mom and dad, "I want to marry Qinshi." On the other hand, Qinshi's dad asks her, "Did you break up with Junhui because of Yang Hua?" To this, Qinshi denies it and says, "Yang Hua has gone abroad and he'll return on New Year's, but I have no intention of marrying him." Then her mom says, "If you don't want to marry him, why are you dating him?" To this, Qinshi says, "Our family's rule is that no one will get divorced here, but you know how big of a psycho I am. If I get married, then divorce is inevitable." At that moment, her dad says, "I can't reason with you anymore. Do whatever you want, but from today onwards, don't come to this house, nor call me your father." Hearing this, Qinshi leaves. In the next scene, Yang Hua and Qinshi return home after meeting their parents. Qinshi asks Yang Hua, "Do you like me? Because I'm going to benefit a lot by marrying you, but you always intended to stay single. So why do you want to marry me?" Yang Hua says, "I'll benefit from this marriage too. I have 3 reasons to marry you. First, since my mom affected your promotion, I have to help you with it. Second, after marrying you, my mom won't force me for anything. Third, I found your house very comfortable, so I don't want to leave it." Hearing this, Qinshi asks, "Are you sure you don't have feelings for me?" To this, Yang Hua says, "Yes, I'm sure." Then the 2 prepare a 3-year marriage agreement, and Yang Hua says, "The wedding will be simple and there will be no wedding ceremony." Qinshi agrees to this. In the next scene, Miss Yihui calls Qinshi to her office and angrily says, "How can anyone lie about marriage just for a promotion?" Hearing this, Qinshi gets scared, but Miss Yihui is actually talking about some other employee. In the next scene, Qinshi tells her parents about the marriage. Both of them become very happy, but when she asks for the household register, his mother says, "First, hold a proper wedding ceremony. Only then will you get the register." Yang Hua also goes to his mother to ask for the household register, but his mother outright refuses. In the next scene, at home, Qinshi says, "I just want to get promoted by getting married. Why is this so difficult for me?" Yang Hua says, "Your mom only set a few conditions, but my mom flatly refused the marriage." Then Qinshi says, "First, we'll get the household register, and then we'll hold the wedding ceremony." Yang Hua meets Qinshi's family, but Qinshi's dad offers him drinks, which he can't refuse, and he gets very drunk. Later, when Qinshi's parents ask him, "How did you meet Qinshi?" Yang Hua says, "Our first meeting was absolutely perfect." At that moment, Ren asks him, "Did you both fall in love at first sight?" Yang Hua says, "Only I fell in love at first sight, not her." After this, Qinshi's dad says, "Will you go abroad even after marriage? I think you should change your job." To this, Yang Hua says, "That was all a lie. I've never gone anywhere." At that moment, Qinshi comes and shuts his mouth, saying, "You've had too much to drink. Let's go home now." But Qinshi's dad stops them from leaving and says to Qinshi, "Until you tell me the truth, you cannot leave." Then Qinshi's dad starts asking Yang Hua many questions, and Yang Hua answers truthfully. He says, "I don't have a job or my own house. I live with my parents and earn money online." Qinshi's dad asks, "Are you planning to live in your parents' house even after marriage?" Yang Hua says, "No, I plan to move into Qinshi's house." Qinshi's mother comes and scolds Qinshi, saying, "Did you break up with Junhui because of this boy? He has no job, no house. How can you marry him?" Qinshi says, "What do you think? That I broke up with Junhui? Fine, I'll tell you the truth today. His family never liked me. His mother never accepted me because I'm from a divorced family." Saying this, she takes Yang Hua and leaves. At that moment, her mother follows and gives her the household register, saying, "If you've chosen this boy, then there's nothing we can do. You will be responsible for your own life." Saying this, she leaves. In the next scene, we see Wu Fei watching a CD of Junhui's college competition, in which Junhui and Qinshi are together, hugging each other. Seeing this, she starts crying because Junhui had told her, "I don't even know Qinshi well." In the next scene, Yang Hua goes to Qinshi's company with her. Qinshi tells Mr. Jin, "I'm handling Miss Lan's case." At that moment, Yang Hua says, "We want to help Miss Lan's company repay its loan, but no one is willing to invest in her company. That's why we want you to invest in her company." Mr. Jin says, "We'll need time to think about it." After that, Yang Hua's dad calls both of them to meet and says, "Here, take your household register." Now they also have their marriage certificate. They both look at their marriage certificate. Yang Hua looks at his photo and says, "Why am I smiling so weirdly?" After this, he goes outside Qinshi's room. When Qinshi opens the door, she is about to slip and fall, but Yang Hua catches her and starts kissing her. However, this was all just his imagination. After this, he actually goes outside Qinshi's room. Qinshi asks him, "What are you doing here?" Yang Hua says, "Can we actually date for real?" Qinshi says, "We wrote in the marriage agreement that we won't date each other for real, and whoever breaks this rule will have to pay a compensation of 5 million. Hearing 5 million, Yang Hua is stunned, and Qinshi shuts the door. Afterwards, Qinshi opens the door again. This time, she slips, and Yang Hua catches her, which makes her heartbeat race. Following this, he starts massaging Qinshi's foot because she had sprained it. In the next scene, meanwhile, Yang Hua and Qinshi's families meet, where Qinshi's mother says, "There should be a wedding ceremony." Yang Hua's father agrees and everyone begins planning. In the next scene, Yang Hua meets with his friend and drinks heavily. While drunk, he calls Qinshi and says, "I hate Junhui and I feel very jealous of him. You are the most beautiful girl in the world. I love you very much." After saying this, he falls asleep there. Qinshi comes to pick him up and his friend says, "Your wife has come to take you." Yang Hua immediately says, "I don't have a wife." Just then, he sees Qinshi and hugs her. After this, Yang Hua's friend and Qinshi take him outside. After seating him in the car, Yang Hua's friend says to Qinshi, "I don't know if your marriage is fake or real, but I do know that Yang Hua genuinely likes you, so please never hurt him." Saying this, he leaves. In the next scene, Wu Fei goes to Miss Yihui and says, "My dad is the owner of Jimei Company, so could you cooperate with him?" Miss Yihui replies, "Jimei Company has many clients and good relations with the media. If we get a chance to cooperate with them, we surely will." On the other hand, Qinshi struggles to bring Yang Hua home. She smiles while watching him sleep and recalls all the things he said while drunk. Then she places a blanket over him, says good night, kisses him, and goes inside. The next morning, when Qinshi goes to the office, she sees Wu Fei sitting in her place. Qinshi asks, "What are you doing here?" Wu Fei says, "Did no one tell you? This is my office from today." Just then, an employee tells Qinshi, "The director is calling you to show your new office." The director then shows her a record room and says, "We heard about Wu Fei's promotion just an hour ago, so this is all we could prepare for you." Afterward, Junhui also joins a position in front of Qinshi's office and accuses her, "You got married after our breakup and you even have a child, which you hid from me." Qinshi then receives a message from Yang Hua, who had brought lunch for her. The two sit and have lunch together. Yang Hua says to her, "Did I say anything to you last night when I was drunk? If I did, please don't take it seriously." Qinshi replies, "No, you didn't say anything like that, but I don't understand how you can make such romantic poems when you're drunk." At home, Yang Hua massages Qinshi and says, "Prepare many plans for your promotion. so that if one fails, there's no loss. Qin Shi falls asleep while he's talking. The next morning, Yang Hua makes breakfast for Qin Shi. Qin Shi says to him, "We should have our wedding ceremony organized by Ren. She will also give us a discount." Then Qin Shi says, "I got a gift for you." She shows him the gift and says, "I brought you a tortoise, and I named it Fairy." Yang Hua says, "But this is a male tortoise. Why did you name it Fairy?" Qin Shi replies, "I thought it was cute, so I named it Fairy. If I find you cute too, I'll call you Fairy as well." So Yang Hua says, "How can you compare me to a tortoise?" To this, Qin Shi says, "Fine, then you can call me Fairy." Hearing this, Yang Hua immediately calls her Fairy, but then finds it awkward himself. After that, Qin Shi leaves for the office. In the next scene, Ren takes Yang Hua and Qin Shi to try on wedding dresses. Both come out wearing wedding dresses and look very beautiful. After this, Ren asks them to try on more dresses. They go inside to try them on, but they don't come out for a long time. Everyone starts calling for them, but the two had sneaked out because Qin Shi had received a call from her company. Just then, Yang Hua says, "You look so pretty that we should at least take a picture." After this, they start taking selfies together. Then Qin Shi says, "Come on, I'll give you a ride." At this point, Yang Hua says, "If you need help with your promotion, let me know." Qin Shi replies, "I'm a lawyer. Are you going to teach me how to do my job now?" Hearing this, Yang Hua gets upset and leaves. On the other hand, Qin Shi is in a meeting with her seniors, who are making her do personal errands instead of work. At home, Qin Shi tells Yang Hua about this. Yang Hua says, "I think it was your fault, but from now on, I won't give you any advice because you told me not to." Saying this, he starts going to his room. Qin Shi says, "I know you don't have any advice to give in the first place, so how will you give any?" Then she calls him stupid and goes to her room. The next day, when Qin Shi goes to the office, her senior tells her, "Book flight tickets for me." In the next scene, Qin Shi takes her seniors to the airport and offers them coffee. After this, she drives her car very fast, causing all the coffee to spill on her seniors, teaching them a lesson in the process. The day of the wedding ceremony arrives. Qin Shi's father brings her to the venue. Yang Hua takes her to the stage, and before kissing her asks, "Won't this break any rules of our contract?" Without answering, Qin Shi kisses him. Afterward, he brings Qin Shi home, and she had been drinking a lot. Qin Shi says, "Today, I'm so happy, and I didn't shed a single tear at my wedding. I don't understand why people cry at such joyful occasions." She then counts the money they received at the wedding ceremony with Yang Hua. After counting, Yang Hua says, "The profit we made from the ceremony is more than the money we spent on it." Following this, Qin Shi shows him the dowry items she received, but all the items fall to the floor. Yang Hua says, "I'll help you clean all this tomorrow. You should rest now." Saying this, he leaves. After he leaves, Qin Shi begins picking up the items to put them back. That's when she finds a note written for her by her mom. While reading the note, she becomes very emotional and starts crying. Meanwhile, Yang Hua, coming out of the shower, hears Qin Shi crying. He goes to her room and asks, "Why are you crying?" Qin Shi hugs him and cries even more. He notices the note written by her mom in her hand and begins comforting her. In the next scene, we see Yang Hua comforting Qin Shi, and he falls asleep there. Suddenly, they both wake up and quickly get up, embarrassed. Yang Hua steps outside and notices that Qin Shi's entire makeup has transferred onto his t-shirt. Seeing this, he can't help but laugh. In the next scene, Yang Hua is making breakfast. He says to Qin Shi, "I want to be your boyfriend." Then he kisses Qin Shi and says, "Feel my feelings for yourself?" Qin Shi replies, "I need to check again." Hearing this, Yang Hua is about to kiss her again when Qin Shi receives a call. Yang Hua tells her to answer it, but Qin Shi refuses. After that, both of them get calls from their parents. They each go to meet their parents. Qin Shi's parents get into an argument, and Qin Shi becomes very upset about their fight. She says to Yang Hua, "I don't understand why they can't live like other parents. They always argue over the smallest things." Yang Hua asks, "Have you thought of a solution for this?" Qin Shi replies, "I'm on my mom's side, and I'll bring her to live with me. I'll rent out an apartment in my house, save money, and buy a new home for her." Yang Hua says, "You don't need to rent out your apartment because now I want to get a job too." Qin Shi says, "You used to hate jobs, so why this sudden change?" Yang Hua replies, "If I have a job, I can get a loan. I want to buy a house. Let your mom live in your house, and I'll buy a new home for us. I only need 6 months." But Qin Shi says, "This is my family issue, and you don't need to change your principles because of me." Yang Hua says, "I'm not changing my principles. I just want to make the people who care about me happy." In the next scene, Yang Hua goes to a company for an interview. The interviewer asks, "Your background is excellent, but why did you leave your previous job and not try something new?" Yang Hua replies, "I don't like interacting with people." Hearing this, the interviewer does not hire him. Later, Yang Hua goes to his friend's office. His friend says, "Why did you feel the need to tell the truth? If you keep doing this, no one will hire you." At this point, Yang Hua asks, "Then what should I do?" His friend angrily replies, "I don't know, don't ask me anything." Hearing this, Yang Hua starts to leave. Just then, his friend asks, "Where are you going?" Yang Hua emotionally blackmails him, saying, "You're my best friend, and even you won't help me." Hearing this, his friend says, "Fine, there's an open position at this bank. Although it's completely opposite to your talents, I can get you that job." Then he makes Yang Hua wear the staff uniform and guides him, saying, "Don't argue with any client or else I won't be able to keep you on the job." Yang Hua replies, "I won't do anything like that." In the next scene, Yang Hua is having lunch with his friend when all the female employees at the office are looking at him. His friend says, "I haven't told anyone here that you're married. You're the most handsome employee here, and you should make as many friendships with these girls as possible so you can stabilize yourself in this job." But Yang Hua, speaking loudly for everyone to hear, says, "I'm married and have no interest in interacting with anyone." Hearing this, all the girls are heartbroken. After this, Qinshi calls him and says, "Let's have lunch together today." Yang Hua had already eaten lunch but still agrees to join her. Later, they are having lunch together. Qinshi asks him, "How was your first day at work?" Yang Hua replies, "I handled everything easily." Qinshi says, "Sometimes I feel like you're not even human." Hearing this, Yang Hua asks, "Are you complimenting me or insulting me?" In the next scene, Yang Hua is at the office when a girl pretends to fall in front of him so he can catch her. But Yang Hua steps aside, and the girl falls to the ground. Yang Hua ignores her and walks away. In the next scene, Yang Hua's friend calls him into his office and says, "I got a complaint about you. I heard you deliberately let a female employee fall." Yang Hua replies, "She fell in front of me on her own." His friend says, "Do you know she's the most beautiful employee here and the entire staff is crazy about her? Such a beautiful girl was falling in front of you and you didn't catch her?" Yang Hua asks, "Do you want her to join your department?" His friend says yes, but that's not possible. Then Yang Hua says, "I'm buying a gift for your wife." His friend asks, "Why are you giving my wife a gift?" Yang Hua replies, "If you can like other female employees, why can't I give your wife a gift? If you don't want me to gift your wife, then you should stay away from female employees." Saying this, he walks away. In the next scene, Yang Hua is copying some papers when a colleague approaches him and asks him to copy some papers for her. Yang Hua ignores her and walks away. In another scene, a female employee approaches him and says, "I shared a link in the group chat. Vote for my son so he can win." Yang Hua replies, "Personal messages aren't allowed in the group and I won't vote for anyone." Then another employee says to him, "Mr. Fang has a leg fracture and we're all going to visit him. Will you come with us?" Yang Hua replies, "I don't even know him, so why would I go?" When Yang Hua's friend gets so many complaints about him, he becomes very angry and says, "You're crazy, and I'm even crazier for hiring you for this job." In the next scene, Qinshi is messaging Yang Hua at the office when Junhui tells her to put the phone down and focus on work. Qinshi says, "I know you and Wu Fei hate me, but can we put aside our past for a few days and work together on this case?" Junhui agrees and then brings over many files for Qinshi to check. He says, "Check all these files and give them to me by tomorrow morning. I'll come back and check if you've done your work." Saying this, he leaves. In the next scene, we see Junhui returning to the office and noticing that Qinshi has fallen asleep while checking the files. Junhui walks over to her, picks up the files, and drapes his jacket over her. At that moment, Yang Hua arrives and sees everything. He walks in and tells Junhui not to touch Qinshi, then picks her up and takes her away. Qinshi goes to her office to grab something. Yang Hua looks around her office and asks, "Why were you given this kind of office?" She replies, "This is only for a few days, and then I'll shift from here." Then the two head back home. Yang Hua seems upset. Qinshi asks, "Are you angry because I didn't tell you that Junhui has returned to our company?" Hearing this, Yang Hua gets angry, starts driving the car very fast and says, "There's no need for you to explain anything to me." Yang Hua and Qinshi return home. They are eating when Qinshi asks, "Do you have a problem with Junhui or my office?" Yang Hua doesn't respond. Then he says, "Are you interested in Junhui?" Qinshi says, "It's not like that. We are just working on a case together." Then Yang Hua asks, "Is Junhui interested in you?" She responds, "He is only interested in putting me down. He thinks that before the breakup, I had an affair with you, and he can't tolerate that I rejected his outstanding personality. Hearing the word outstanding doesn't sit well with Yang Hua. In the next scene, Yang Hua is reading a book in his room, but his mind is occupied with thoughts like, does Qin Shi really find him outstanding? Because of this, he can't sleep. He then asks his turtle to choose who is outstanding and places his picture and Junhoi's sketch on the table. The turtle goes to Yang Hua's picture, and he becomes happy. Then Qin Shi arrives, but Yang Hua refuses and says, I'm feeling sleepy. I'm going to bed. He goes to sleep and says, if you need help, get it from Junhui. Qin Shi then approaches him and asks, are you jealous of Junhui? Yang Hua responds, I don't get jealous of anyone. I respect those who are better than me, and why would I be jealous of those who aren't? Qin Shi says, okay, I'll accept that you're not jealous, but you look very cute right now. Saying this, she starts to leave. Then she sees the sketch of Junhui. Yang Hua quickly takes the sketch from her hand. Qin Shi says, it looks like you were making your turtle choose you. By the way, you draw well. Make my sketch next time. Saying this, she starts to leave. Yang Hua then holds her and asks, you tell me, who is outstanding? To this, she names Junhui. The next day, Yang Hua tells his friend about all this. His friend says, yes, Junhui is quite handsome and capable, but what's the tension in that? You are Qin Shi's husband. You have already won this game. Yang Hua then sees a man and recalls a scene in a flashback, showing that the man was his boss, and because of Yang Hua, the company incurred a loss, leading to Yang Hua's dismissal. Yang Hua's friend knew about this too, so to distract Yang Hua, he says, let's go for lunch. But Yang Hua looks at him angrily, so he leaves. In the next scene, when Qin Shi is sitting with Yang Hua at home, she asks, do you have something to tell me? Yang Hua refuses. Qin Shi goes to her room. Then Yang Hua knocks on the door. When Qin Shi opens the door, he says, I need to talk to you. But Qin Shi starts to close the door, but Yang Hua stops it with his foot, and then says, everything I did today was out of jealousy. I was jealous of Junhui because he came into your life before me. But now, I consider myself luckier because now you are mine, and will always remain mine. Then Qin Shi asks, is this why you were acting so strange today? Yang Hua says, yes, but was I acting very childish? Qin Shi laughs and says, no, you were very cute. Saying this, she hugs Yang Hua. In the next scene, Yang Hua and Qin Shi are talking. Qin Shi quietly listens to Yang Hua. Then Yang Hua asks, why are you staring at me like that? Qin Shi doesn't respond, but asks, can you sleep in my room tonight? Yang Hua doesn't say anything, so Qin Shi gets up to leave. Then Yang Hua says, yes. She laughs and says, you took more than 3 seconds to decide. Forget about it now, and goes to her room. In the next scene, Yang Hua is choosing nightwear for himself. Then he goes to Qin Shi's room. Qin Shi is working there. Yang Hua says, if you are busy, I won't disturb you. Saying this, he starts to leave. Qin Shi stops her work and says, come in. Yang Hua comes in and sits quietly. Qin Shi says, go to sleep. But Yang Hua gets up and says, I have a question to ask you. She says, ask that question tomorrow. Yang Hua says, I won't be able to sleep until I ask. Junhui is dropping Wu Fei at her home. Wu Fei says, if your dad wants to sign a prenup before our marriage, let me know. I will definitely sign it. Junhui says, there is no need for that because I trust you. Wu Fei says, if my dad gives a prenup, I will tear it up. And saying this, she leaves. On the other hand, Yang Hua was playing a game on his mobile. Qin Shi was disturbing him in the middle of the game, but Yang Hua was not affected by it. This made Qin Shi angry. She takes his mobile and kisses him. Then they both sleep together. The next morning, Yang Hua goes to the office where he suspects the product of his new clients, who are his old boss, Mr. Kui. This makes his boss angry and he fires him. When Yang Hua comes home, he hears some noises from inside the house. He thinks there might be a thief inside, so he picks up a stick to hit the thief. But when he goes inside, he sees that Qin Shi is cooking for him, but she has burnt all the food, and she has also burnt her hand. Yang Hua says, if you don't know how to cook, why are you forcing yourself? You could have told me. I would have brought food. Qin Shi says, you were also at work. By the way, how did you come home so early? Yang Hua replies, I came to get something. I will leave soon. Just then, the delivery man arrives with the food. Then Qin Shi explains, I had planned to surprise you by cooking for you, but since the food got burnt, I ordered it, and I was going to tell you that I made it myself, but you came home early. Yang Hua says, why did you need to do all this? Qin Shi hugs him and says, I wanted to show you that not only you can take care of me, but I can also take care of you. Yang Hua says, what if I lose my job someday? Qin Shi says, I will still support you because this is your life and you can live it as you wish. Then Qin Shi goes to the office with Yang Hua and says, I am Yang Hua's wife. Her boss mocks and says, I fired you, so you brought your wife. Qinshi asks him the reason for firing Yanghua. The boss says, he did the work that he was not supposed to do. Qinshi says, you must be aware of labor laws. You can only fire Yanghua if he broke a company rule or committed violence. But he did nothing of the sort. This means you broke the labor law, and there will be a case against you. The boss angrily asks, who are you? Qinshi replies, I am a lawyer, and before firing an employee, make sure to check who they are connected to. After this, she leaves with swag. Yanghua is very impressed by his wife's intelligence. In the next scene, Yanghua and Qinshi are going home together. Then a puppy comes to them. Yanghua picks it up and says to Qinshi, dear, we found our baby. Qinshi thinks, for the first time, Yanghua called me dear. In the next scene, Qinshi and Yanghua return home. Qinshi says, if you love someone, what is the guarantee that you will always love them? Yanghua hugs her and says, if we talk about you, I will always love you. Qinshi says, who is on your short list? Tell me the truth. Yanghua says, no one else except you. In the next scene, Yanghua rejoins his job and apologizes to his friend. He says, because of me, you had to endure a lot. If you want, I will quit my job. His friend replies, stop being clever with me and behave as you usually do. And if you really care about my well-being, stop thinking about it. That's enough for me. And don't talk about quitting your job because our president wants to promote you. Yanghua, surprised, asks for the reason. His friend says, the president found out about your boss's fraud. In the next scene, when Yanghua sits at his desk, his colleague tells him about the welcome party, but Yanghua refuses. The colleague says, if you are not free, no problem. Yanghua replies, it's not that, I just don't have money. So everyone offers to treat him, which makes him happy. In the next scene, Qinshi picks up Yanghua and gives him a new dress. Yanghua asks, why did you buy a new dress for me? Qinshi says, Miss Yihui has invited us to dinner. Yanghua asks, why did she invite me? Qinshi says, you will find out when we get there. By the way, tell me, does anyone bother you at the office now? Yanghua replies, now no one can bother me. Qinshi laughs and says, are you making fun of me for being very dangerous? Yanghua says, no, I didn't mean that. But yes, being under your protection is good for me. After that, they leave. In the next scene, they both get ready for dinner. Qinshi says, don't you want to go back to your previous job? Here you are wasting your smartness and knowledge. Yanghua says, how is it being wasted? I am making my life easier with my smartness. After that, they leave for dinner. When they arrive, Miss Yihui calls them over. Qinshi tells Yanghua, don't be nervous. Keep smiling and look natural. Yanghua replies, I am behaving naturally, but you look unnatural. Qinshi says, let's make an excuse and go home. Yanghua laughs and says, I am perfectly fine. Why make an excuse? Yanghua tells her to relax. Even though my identity is fake, my experience is real. I won't be exposed so quickly. Just keep smiling and leave the rest to me. In the next scene, Yanghua meets his old colleague there, who caused the company loss, but blamed it all on Yanghua. While everyone is eating, the colleague talks about Yanghua and Qinshi. Yanghua can't bear it and makes an excuse to leave. In the washroom, Yanghua keeps remembering his past. After this, Yanghua calls Qinshi and says, I won't be able to help you, so you should also go home. But don't drive yourself. You have had a drink. Qinshi asks, where are you? But Yanghua doesn't tell and hangs up the call. In the next scene, Qinshi is going by taxi and sees Yanghua on the side of the road. She goes to him and asks, why are you sitting here in such cold? Yanghua says nothing and hugs her, crying. After this, Qinshi takes him to a restaurant. When they are having dinner, Junhui and Wufei arrive there. Yanghua and Qinshi see them and start to leave. Then a waiter passes by with food, which is about to fall on Qinshi. Junhui steps forward to save her, but the hot food falls on his hand, burning it. After this, Qinshi and Yanghua head back to their home. On the way, Yanghua says, you can call Junhui. His hand is quite burnt. I think he is a good guy. If you two had gotten married, you would have been happier. Qinshi says, I don't care what he is like. Besides, I am married now. Yanghua says, this is a fake marriage. People are suspicious of me. I could be exposed at any time. Qinshi says, I shouldn't have taken you there. Because of me, you met someone you hate. Yanghua tears up. The next morning, before going to the office, Qinshi goes to Yanghua's room and says, have breakfast. Yanghua smiles and says, I want to sleep a little longer. Qinshi smiles lightly and goes to the office. Then Yanghua's father comes to meet him and says, yesterday Li Dai came to meet me. She told me that your ex-boss, Mr. Kui, is in jail for fraud, and Li Dai is handling his case. She wants you to be a witness for him. To this, Yanghua says, I need some time to think. In the next scene, we see that Yang Hua was unable to decide whether he should help Mr. Kwai or not. He goes to his pet turtles and decides to seek their help in this matter. Yang Hua places 2 plates on a table, one with more food and the other with less food. Then he says to the turtles, "If you choose the plate with more food, I shouldn't help Mr. Kui. And if you choose the plate with less food, I should help him." After that, he asks the turtle to choose. The turtle starts moving towards the plate with less food. Yang Hua turns it towards the plate with more food and says, "Look, there's more food here. Why are you going towards the plate with less food?" But the turtle again chooses the plate with less food. Yang Hua isn't satisfied, so he asks the other turtle to choose as well. The other turtle also moves towards the plate with less food. After this, when Qinshi comes home, Yang Hua asks her to put her feet in hot water. He asks her, "If I were like before, would you still like me?" Qinshi smiles and says, "I like you just as you are now." After this, she also asks Yang Hua to put his feet in the water, and they start enjoying it. In the next scene, Yang Hua tells his friend, "I rejected my promotion because I didn't come here for money. I just wanted to get a loan, which I can get even while staying in this position." Hearing this, his friend, troubled, says, "I have been working here for 5 years and haven't been promoted even once. I thought you would get me promoted along with yourself." Yang Hua smiles and replies, "You know nothing about investments. Then how can you think about your promotion?" His friend says, "I even told my wife that I was going to be promoted. Now what will I tell her?" He was worried, and hearing all this made Yang Hua laugh a lot. In the next scene, Yang Hua goes to court to give testimony. Yang Hua goes there and testifies in favor of Mr. Kui, but Mr. Kui's case is still ongoing. In another courtroom, another case is going on. A girl named Yao Yao is sitting sad after losing the case. Outside, there is a crowd of reporters waiting to interview Yao Yao. She is trying to avoid them when Yang Hua comes and takes her into his car and drives her away safely. After this, Yang Hua remembers a scene showing that Yao Yao is his ex-girlfriend and they were very happy together. In the present, Yao Yao asks Yang Hua, "What are you doing here?" Yang Hua says, "Those reporters have found out your home address, so you should go somewhere else for a few days." Just then, Lu Dai is also waiting for them. She gets into the car and says, "Mr. Kui had a heart attack, so we have to go to the hospital right now." After this, Yao Yao gets out of the car, and they both leave. Then Yao Yao remembers her past, where she was leaving Yang Hua because he was going to Canada for a job. Yang Hua tries to stop her, but Yao Yao says, "You are going to Canada with Mr. Kui, so do you think he won't force you to marry his daughter?" Yang Hua responds, "I am going there for work. I won't marry her." But Yao Yao leaves him saying, "You only care about your work. You don't deserve love." In the next scene, when Qin Shi comes home, she receives a call from Li Dai. Li Dai says, "I have started liking Yang Hua quite a bit. Now tell me, when are you both getting a divorce or how much money do you want to leave him?" To this, Qin Shi says, "If you have nothing else to talk about, I am ending this call." Li Dai says, "I called to tell you that I met Yao Yao today, and I have exclusive news for you that Yang Hua and Yao Yao already knew each other. Not only that, but they were very close friends too. I am telling you this because you and Yang Hua are not a real couple, so it won't affect your relationship. And if you find out anything more about them, let me know, because I love hearing people's gossip." In the next scene, Yang Hua and Qin Shi are having dinner. Qin Shi says, "Li Dai told me you met your friend." Hearing this, Yang Hua remembers his friend's words. "No matter what happens, don't tell your wife about your ex-girlfriend, or she will become quite aggressive. I have a lot of experience with this." Then Yang Hua says, "Yes, we were neighbors and classmates during childhood." Qin Shi says, "I met her. She is quite pretty, so she must have been pretty during childhood too." To this, Yang Hua says, "She used to bully everyone. Everyone had to obey her." Qin Shi says, "So did you also obey her?" Yang Hua says, "Yes, I was also very scared of her." Then Qin Shi says, "I feel like your friend has trained you to say all this," to which he says nothing. Then Qin Shi says, "Li Dai was telling me that when you were in court, you saved your dear Yao Yao from there." To this, Yang Hua says, "What nonsense are you talking about? She is not my dear, she was just my classmate." Then Yang Hua receives a call from his dad, so he goes to his room to talk. His dad says to Yang Hua, "Don't tell Qin Shi about Yao Yao, but talk to her nicely." When Yang Hua comes out, he tells Qin Shi, "Let's play a game." But Qin Shi says, "I am not in the mood to do anything right now." Yang Hua asks, "Are you angry with me?" Qin Shi says, "If you don't want to tell me something, I won't force you," and goes to her room. In the next scene, Yang Hua tells everything to his friend, who says, "Good that your dad saved you by calling. Anyway, Qin Shi has got you under her control. You always said that only crazy boys are under girls' control, so now I will also consider you crazy." To which Yang Hua says nothing. Then Yang Hua gets up to leave, and his friend follows him and asks, How did you feel meeting Yao Yao again? If you have to choose between Qin Shi and Yao Yao, who will you choose? Yang Hua says, I will never have to choose. In the next scene, Yang Hua's friend asked him, did you tell Qin Shi about Yao Yao? And if Qin Shi and Yao Yao have a fight, whose side will you take? But Yang Hua ignores him and leaves. In the next scene, Qin Shi comes home and tells Yang Hua, I have to meet Yao Yao regarding a case. Yang Hua asks, when are you going? Qin Shi says, why are you so excited to know this? I have a case, and I need your Yao Yao for it. Yang Hua says, she has nothing to do with me. Qin Shi says, if you dated her once, it's normal. Yang Hua says, who told you I dated her? Qin Shi says, it's clear from your face that you dated her. You are not that good at hiding secrets. Then Yang Hua says, Yamo and I grew up together, but after going to college, we developed an attraction, and the breakup was because of me. I was so immature that I didn't even try to contact her after the breakup. Qin Shi says, then why did you lie that you were only childhood friends? Yang Hua replies, I didn't want to reveal the past and ruin the present. Then Qin Shi says, tell me, when was the last time you both held hands? He says, during the Children's Day promotion. Qin Shi says, I'm talking about after growing up. All right, tell me, when did you go on your first date? He says, during college holidays, we went to watch a movie. Then Qin Shi says, this is my last question. If you get a chance to go back to Yao Yao, what will you do? Yang Hua says, why are you asking about something that won't happen? Ask questions that exist. Hearing this, she gets angry and leaves. In the next scene, Miss Yi Hui invites Yang Hua and Qin Shi for dinner, but Wu Fei had already told them that Qin Shi's marriage is fake. So Qin Shi says to them, yes, I hid my married status from you, but I don't want to give you any excuses. I just want you to change some rules in your company. Give single female lawyers the same chances you give to married lawyers. Next, Qin Shi gets ready to go to the office, but she is nervous about how she will face the people there. Then she thinks, but I have to go because I can't stay at home and make money like Yang Hua. Thinking this, she heads to the office. When she goes to Miss Yi Hui's office, she apologizes again and says, whatever punishment you want to give me, I will accept it. Miss Yi Hui demotes her, leaving her with no cases to handle. So she starts serving tea and coffee to her colleagues. On the other hand, Yang Hua tells his friend, I want to buy a new house. His friend cannot believe him. Then Yang Hua says, you remember that you will help me get a loan from the bank. His friend says, you have changed so much. You used to think people who did jobs and bought houses were crazy. Now you have also gone crazy like us. That's why I'm very happy. Then Yang Hua says, I want to propose to Qin Shi by giving her a house. Don't tell anyone about this, and leaves. In the next scene, Li Dai calls Qin Shi and tells her, Yao Yao has a 5-year-old son. He lives with his dad in Australia and will be coming back soon. Hearing this, Qin Shi asks, why are you telling me this? Li Dai says, your fake marriage has turned into a real one. His ex-girlfriend might come between you two. So stay away from Yao Yao's case and keep Yang Hua away too. If they get back together, what will you do? After this, Qin Shi hangs up and starts to leave. Junhui was sitting nearby and had drunk a lot. Qin Shi asks him, what are you doing here? She then helps him into the car and starts to drive him. Qin Shi asks for his address, and he gives her Qin Shi's address instead. Meanwhile, Yang Hua is waiting for Qin Shi at home. Qin Shi calls him for help. Qin Shi had stopped the car on the way because Junhui had not given her his address. She says, I will book a nearby hotel room for you. Then she calls Yang Hua and asks, where have you reached? Junhui takes the phone from her hand and holds her hand. Qin Shi tells him to let go of her hand, but he doesn't. Yang Hua hears this and starts to get worried. When Yang Hua arrives, Junhui hugs Qin Shi and says, I want to marry you. The more I tried to avoid you, the more my love for you grew. Qin Shi says, I cannot marry you. I am already married. Junhui says, I know your marriage is fake, so leave him and marry me. She refuses him. Junhui then asks, do you like Yang Hua? Yang Hua is also waiting for her answer, but she says, what's it to you? Go and rest. At that moment, Yang Hua goes to her, takes Qin Shi with him, and leaves. They return home, and Qin Shi starts explaining to Yang Hua. Yang Hua asks, why don't you want a real marriage? Qin Shi says, I am already married to you, and I am happy with this marriage. Yang Hua then asks, do you love me? Qin Shi says, I think we are already in a relationship. Then Yang Hua brings the marriage contract and says, we have broken the rules of this contract. While signing the contract, we decided we wouldn't fall in love with each other. So I am terminating this contract and we will get a divorce. Qin Shi hugs him and says, I know you are upset because of Junhui. You are very tired, go and rest. Meanwhile, Yang Hua also had tears in his eyes. When she starts to leave, Yang Hua says, tomorrow we will go and sign the divorce papers. To this, Qin Shi says, do you really want a divorce? Where are those promises now when you said you would always stay with me and support me? Yang Hua says, I remember all of this, but you don't understand the meaning of this marriage. It cannot give you a real life, nor can it help you. I don't want you to always live a false life. So, we will get a divorce tomorrow. Saying this, he leaves, and Qinshi starts crying at his words. In the next scene, both get a divorce and go to their respective homes. In the next scene, Qinshi comes home, but Yang Hua is no longer there. He used to always prepare dinner for her. She misses Yang Hua a lot, so she goes to his room to see if he left any letter, but she finds nothing. In the next scene, Yao Yao's son, Sunny, returns from Australia. Yao Yao holds his hand to take him away, but Sunny says, I am grown up now, so don't hold my hand. To this, Yao Yao says, you have grown up, but I am still a child, so hold my hand and walk. Then they go to their home. In the next scene, a child bumps into Yang Hua and falls down. The child's mother gets angry at Yang Hua, and Yang Hua says, the child bumped into me first, and because of this, my phone broke too. The child's mother says, children don't lie, now you will have to pay for his medical fee. At that moment, Sunny arrives and tells the auntie, this uncle is not at fault. Auntie says, what do you know? You just arrived, and you are still a child. Sunny says, you just said that children don't lie, so I am also a child. The auntie starts getting angry at him and says, what's your relation to him? He isn't your dad. He must have told you to say all this. Sunny hides behind Yang Hua and says, if you don't believe me, you can check the CCTV. Then the auntie leaves. When Yang Hua is going after Sunny, Yao Yao comes to take Sunny. Then Yang Hua realizes that Sunny is Yao Yao's son. Knowing this, Yang Hua gets a little upset. In the next scene, Yang Hua is sitting in a restaurant with Yao Yao and Li Dai. A waiter comes and asks them to order food, and Sunny orders the same food that Yang Hua orders. After this, they talk about Yao Yao's case, and Yang Hua agrees to help Yao Yao with her case. In the next scene, Yang Hua and Yao Yao are talking about their past because Li Dai and Sunny had gone outside. Yao Yao says, I told you to choose between career and me, and you chose career. But now I feel that I did wrong to you. I was very stubborn back then. Please forgive me. After this, Yao Yao leaves with Sunny. Li Dai says to Yang Hua, I am beginning to understand something, but I don't have proof yet. Do you think I should tell this to Qinshi? Yang Hua does not reply and leaves. Next, Li Dai calls Qinshi and tells her, if you see Yao Yao's son, you would suspect too. He looks exactly like Yang Hua, and Yang Hua also seems serious about Yao Yao's case. Qinshi says, did you call me just to tell me this? Li Dai says, yes, I just wanted to remind you to keep an eye on Yang Hua, so that they don't become a happy family of 3. Saying this, she hangs up. Then Qinshi looks at a photo of the two of them on the table and remembers a past scene where Qinshi tells Yang Hua to take a casual photo, but Yang Hua ruins her pose. Then Qinshi makes him delete the photo, and they take another couple photo. The next day, Qinshi goes to Yao Yao's house to meet her. Qinshi asks, tell me where your son is, and Yao Yao says, he has gone for a tuition class. Why have you come here? Qinshi says, I just came to tell you to stay away from Yang Hua, but all this was her imagination. At that moment, Yao Yao says, what are you thinking? Tell me why you have come. Qinshi says, why are you misleading Yang Hua? Why do you act like Sunny is Yang Hua's son? Yao Yao says, I am not misleading him. He always cares for others, so he is helping me too. Before leaving, Qinshi tells Yao Yao, whether Sunny is Yang Hua's son or not, it doesn't matter to me because Yang Hua is mine and will remain mine. After she leaves, Yao Yao calls Yang Hua to come out, who was hiding inside. Yao Yao tells him, you must have heard what Qinshi just said. Why didn't you tell her that you were helping me? Yang Hua says, she is very careless. I don't know who made her a lawyer. Then Yao Yao tries to give Yang Hua the money she had given him for his help, but Yang Hua refuses to take it and says, don't worry, I won't tell Qinshi about this, and leaves. In the next scene, when Qinshi is going back, she remembers a promise from Yang Hua, in which Yang Hua says, I guarantee that I will love you for a lifetime. And she also remembers the scene when he talked about getting a divorce. After that, when she goes home, she sees that her house was completely clean and dinner was already prepared. She thought her mom had done all this, so she sends a thanks message to her mom. The next day in the office, she blocks Yang Hua's number. In the next scene, Yao Yao tells Li Dai, Yang Hua is also coming to Australia with me. Li Dai says, he is Yang Hua, not your property that you are taking him with you. So Yao Yao says, anyway, Yang Hua and Qinshi have gotten a divorce. Just then, Qin also arrives there, and Li Dai says to Qin, "Why didn't you tell me that you two have gotten a divorce?" Li Dai says, "Qin has done so much for you, and you are taking Yang Hua away from her." At that moment, Qin says, "I am sure he will not go with you." Yao Yao says, "Our flight is at 11 a.m. tomorrow. If you have the courage, stop him." Then she leaves. Yang Hua comes to pick her up, and Yao Yao takes him with her. Meanwhile, Li Dai tells Qin, "Go and stop him," but Qin does not go. On the other hand, Yao Yao says to Yang Hua, "If you both like each other, why did you fight?" Yang Hua says, "I like Qin more than anyone else." So Yao Yao says, "You can go to her, but you want her to come to you herself." On the other hand, Qin comes to stop Yang Hua, but Yang Hua had already left, so Qin, soaked in the rain, starts walking away when her brother arrives with an umbrella, and Qin hugs her brother and starts crying. The next morning, Yang Hua leaves for the airport with Yao Yao and Sunny. In the next scene, Qin's mom comes to Qin's house and says, "Why is the house so dirty?" Qin says, "I just cleaned the house and cooked food yesterday." Her mom says, "I didn't come here yesterday." Then we are shown a flashback scene in which Yang Hua cleans her house and happily cooks food for her. Then her mom tells her, "We already knew about your divorce when you two got divorced. Yang Hua came to our house and started telling us that you have arranged so many divorces that now you are afraid of marriage. I divorced him because I didn't want him to live a fake life with me. I can't marry him, but please allow me to take care of him without getting married." Hearing all this, Qin immediately leaves for the airport. On the other hand, Yao Yao says to Yang Hua, "What if our plan backfires on us?" Yang Hua says, "Nothing like that will happen, leave everything to me." Then Yao Yao says, "Can you really not come to Australia with me? There are many girls like Qin there." She then asks him to hug her to say goodbye, but Yang Hua says, "I have a girlfriend, so I can't do that." Yao Yao then returns the money to him that she had given him. Next, Qin searches for Yang Hua everywhere at the airport but can't find him anywhere. Just then, Yang Hua passes behind Qin and goes abroad. Then we are shown a scene 7 months later, where Qin and Li Dai are being interviewed. At that moment, Miss Yi Hui rehires Qin and makes her a partner in the company, and Mr. Jin says, "From now on, single females will get as many chances as married females." Miss Yi Hui says, "Yang Hua was right that we should change our rules." At that moment, Qin is looking at her and Yang's photo and then asks, "Are you still in contact with Yang Hua?" Miss Hui says, "Yes. He has now become a CEO of a company abroad. We are opening a branch of our company there, and he will come for the opening." Next, Qin's brother has a baby, and they are very happy. Seeing their happy family, Qin's fear of marriage also goes away, and she starts thinking, "Yang Hua was absolutely right that I needed time to understand all this, so he left me." Next, when she comes home, she sees some people bringing new items and placing them near her house. At that moment, she sees a turtle outside her house and says to it, "Where have you come from, and why do you look familiar?" At that moment, we see Yang Hua returning from abroad, and as soon as Qin sees him, she hugs him. They are both very happy together. Then, inside, Qin asks Yang Hua, "You had gone to Australia with Yao Yao, so why did you come back?" Yang Hua says, "Who told you that I went with Yao Yao?" Then Qin says, "I missed you a lot, and please don't leave me again." Then Yang Hua promises her, "I will never leave you again," and she hugs him. Then Qin asks, "Did you come back for Yao Yao or for me?" Yang Hua says, "You are the only one in my heart. You were in the past, and you will be in the future too." And then he kisses her. This is where the drama ends. How much rating would you give this drama? And which was your favorite scene? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the videos.